Are y'all ready for this? Dun 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 dun. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Atcast, a podcast for the study of modern visual culture. Here to introduce the summer season is me, your maiden of the savage season, Soup.
And I'm just a savage maiden, Renu.
Oh, I see. You've skipped this season altogether. It's just all the time.
Yeah, no, it's just all the time.
Good. All right. This week, AT stands for Absolute Territory because we'll be talking about the summer 2019 season. A little later than expected, but still.
Don't mention it.
We're here. It doesn't matter that we're halfway through the season. At this point, that's expected.
Don't say that. Oh my god.
Okay, you know what? I'm going to be completely honest here. I mostly blame the season for this because I feel like part of the reason is obviously the scheduling of the podcast is every 2 weeks. So there's going to be like downtime between episodes. But I feel like the real problem is that the season doesn't end all at once, like because they start airing at different times.
Yeah.
And like sometimes they air like a week or two apart, which is actually really annoying.
Yeah.
But anyway.
So basically it's the broadcasting company's fault, not ours.
Right, this is Japan's fault. Why did Japan do this? Anyway, we're here though, and we're ready to talk about anime, but before we get into that, what have you been up to?
I am, let's see, I am slowly crawling towards the end of convention season. So I just came back from MechaCon in New Orleans, which was super fun, and
Nice.
I ate so much good food. Oh my god, even the Popeyes over there is better.
No! Oh, you're making me so jealous!
Have you ever been?
No, but every
Oh my
time
God.
someone talks about food from
Yeah.
New Orleans, or every
Yeah.
time Cole brings up New Orleans,
Yeah.
or every time you bring up New Orleans, I'm just
Yeah.
like, I want to eat the food so much.
We gotta bring you over there, man. It's
Yeah.
really fun.
It's like a mecca for like fried foods.
Basically, though, they have mastered it for many years.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to a couple of sort of Cajun-style restaurants around, and I don't know. Every time I eat it, I'm like, wow, this is really good, but I can only imagine what it's like in New Orleans.
In the origin.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was,
I mean, how
it
could
was
you
a lot
not?
of fun.
How could you not think about it?
Yeah. It was freaking, like, I know I blew so much money on food, but it was so worth it.
No, it's completely worth it. Like, the thing about it is, as somebody who likes food, there's like, just how could you not want to go to New Orleans and eat all the food that exists?
Basically, though.
Yeah, it's like going to Philadelphia and eating a real cheesesteak.
I feel like
it's just how
Philadelphia
it
has
be.
other things to offer than cheesesteak, right?
Oh yeah, they do. Like hot dogs where if you put ketchup on them, they'll flay you alive. That's like a thing on the East Coast, is that it's culturally not acceptable to put ketchup on your hot dogs. It's only mustard and or other condiments.
But I don't like mustard.
I mean, I like mustard, and I guess it depends on the hot dog, because I feel like if it was a good hot dog, I guess I wouldn't need the ketchup to like hide it.
Oh, you know what? I think it actually depends on the mustard too, because I had some kind of dish while I was in New Orleans that was like, it had like a mustard sauce, and I was a little skeeved out about it, but it was delicious.
Okay. I mean, yeah, there you go. Like, there are different kinds of mustard, and they're not going to be all the same. Like, maybe you just don't like processed yellow mustard.
Yeah, I don't like that Heinz mustard or whatever. You know, that ultra yellow one? Yeah.
I used to really not, and then I came to kind of appreciate it, and I'm not sure when that change happened.
Maybe I need the right food with it.
But it was probably around the same time I started drinking black coffee, and I guess that would make sense.
Oh, well, there's a certain bitterness to it, and like I'm okay with the tanginess, but not quite that type of bitterness. I don't know.
Yeah, it's because it's sort of like a it hits you in the same place that like wasabi and horseradish do, where it's like tingly, but it isn't really a flavor.
Okay, yeah, I don't like wasabi or horseradish either, so I guess it's all coming together.
See, I don't like horseradish, and I don't like the like green paste wasabi, but I've had like the actual ground up root wasabi that's actually quite tasty.
Oh.
It's very
really?
sharp, but it's like softer and more floral.
Okay.
Anyway, anything else? What else have you been up to?
I mean that's mainly it. My lease is up soon, so I've been like doing a whole bunch of like apartment hunting, house hunting.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
That is the case for a lot of people I know because half of them have sort of graduated and some of them are looking to move around. So
yeah, exactly.
It's
I guess
very real.
Like, summer's just the season for it, so yeah.
I guess so. Yeah, summer is the season of revolution and moving.
Revolution.
Yeah, I mean most Independence Days are just in the middle of summer for some reason.
That's true. You're right.
It's just something about the weather that makes people cranky.
Yeah.
It's too cold. It's too cold to revolt in the middle of January, that's all.
I know. Who would want to throw a revolt in the middle of January? I'm sure some country out there has, but still, it's like miserable.
Yeah.
At least in the northern hemisphere.
That's true. Maybe Australia. I don't know. When is Australian Independence Day? Did they have one?
Did they have one?
I mean, Australia has an independence.
Oh, for Britain?
It
is in January.
It's January 26th, which is for them the middle of summer.
Yes, it is.
So
the
it's
season of
true.
rebellion.
The season of rebellion. Yep, the flames of rebellion rise up within you. something. I don't remember how that goes. It's been like 2 years since I've seen anyone play Persona 5. But
it'll come back.
I was gonna say
year.
there's the Royale news is coming out, so it looks like they're it's gonna be relevant again. I'm really curious to see what they're gonna change in that.
Yeah, me too. I'm really curious about the new character. I'm really curious about like all the new combo moves and all the new
Futaba gets a finisher move.
I know. Oh my god.
I'm so excited about it. I'm so excited. Not that I can play it because it's not going to be on any platform I own.
Not that you've ever played it.
I played Persona 3 and Persona 4 Golden because they were on the Vita, but I guess the Vita's dead now, so that idea is dead in the water, and now I'm just going to cry a little because I love that little thing.
Aww.
I just love it a little bit. I just love it a little bit less than the Switch. Sorry to say.
I mean, aren't they releasing Persona 5 on the Switch?
I don't know. Are they? If they are, I'll buy it.
Isn't it like Persona 5S? Something? I don't remember.
Let's see. Oh, there's an article from April 25th, which is Persona 5 on Nintendo Switch isn't what you want.
Oh.
Hold on, let's read into this. P5R is actually Persona 5 the Royale, an enhanced version of the original JRPG, so it adds extra content, etc., etc. Oh, they have a lady named Kasumi Yoshizawa. I guess that's the female character that they added.
Yeah, that's the new lady.
But since the original game also ran on PlayStation 3, blah 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 blah.
Oh, never mind. It's a Dynasty Warriors version of Persona.
What?
Yeah.
Weird.
That's coming out on the Switch. I'm actually really excited because I love Dynasty Warriors, but
I love Dynasty Warriors. Like, it's one of my sort of I almost want to call it like a guilty pleasure game, even though there's no guilt in playing a Dynasty Warriors game. But like, yeah, I guess the Switch only gets those versions of games for some reason.
Yeah, and I guess it kind of makes, but at the same time, I feel like Persona 5 would do well on the Switch, right? Because it's such a long game.
Well, it's the perfect. Okay, it is the perfect sort of game to put on the Switch, as evidenced by the fact that Fire Emblem just came out and it's fucking amazing.
Right. And they put the other Persona games on the Vita, so I don't know, maybe they're going to
I think it's just a Nintendo thing. Like, Persona games don't normally come to Nintendo unless they're Shin Megami Tensei games, period, or if they're Persona Q. Persona Q comes to
and they did just come out
Nintendo
with
games.
Q2.
Yeah, so that's probably they're probably just holding on to it because they have a sick like exclusive licensing deal. Just kind of a bummer because I don't own like a console and I don't really want to own one outside of the Switch. So I'm just gonna watch someone else play it probably.
Right. Watch someone else be with your waifu instead of you.
Yeah, it's a bummer that I can't. It is a, and I will say this: it's kind of a bummer that I can't watch Adam play Persona 5R because he's probably not gonna go back and play it.
It's okay. You can watch me. I'll be playing it.
But there's like few other. Oh, okay, if you're gonna play it, I'll watch you play it,
and I'll romance your waifu for you.
That's okay. Listen, I have some like ethical concerns about romancing Futaba in the actual game itself.
I know it was so uncomfortable though.
But you know, I appreciate the sentiment. You can romance someone else if you like maybe the new lady character.
I never romanced Haru because she was so late in the game.
Oh god, yeah, Haru suffers from like being she's the Naoto but like not as interesting.
Right.
And like not that I don't love Haru. I do love Haru.
Right. But I love Haru too.
She comes so late in the game and her kit isn't as useful as Naoto's, I feel like, and
right, exactly.
Also, she doesn't get as much like development as the other characters. Like she's sort of done with by the time she rolls around, which is highly disappointing because it feels like all the other characters have such strong arcs, while Haru's is just like, my dad is a meanie face.
Yeah, I feel like they had room for exploration, right? Because there is that whole like, they had to go after her father, and she has to come to terms with the fact that he was terrible to people, and that one of their people who they trusted like ended up killing him, like that, all that kind of stuff, right? Like
to be fair, it did feel a little bit like they rushed the latter half of the game, considering it felt like it was paced, or it felt like it was both padded and like really short in terms of actual content. Like it felt like it went on forever because things were starting to get kind of stale by then, but also like there wasn't actually that much else that really happened. There was like 2 things, and that was the end of the game. Right. So that was a bummer.
I hope that they kind of round out the end game content so that it doesn't feel like such a, I don't know, so empty.
I hope so too, because it felt like they were a little bit confused about how the game would end.
Right.
So hopefully they tighten that up a little bit, because it's kind of a bummer when your game sucks at the end, when it's so good in the first act.
Exactly. Like basically everything else was good except for the end.
Yeah.
The end, like the final boss and stuff, like all of that was cool. It was just like the stuff leading up to the end, and that was like a pain in the butt.
Oh, so is that it? Just cons?
Yeah, just conventions and apartment hunting. I mean, it's been taking up so much of my time. I haven't been able to do much else, really.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So what about you?
Well, I mean, it goes without saying that for the last, let's see, what is it? Thursday? Okay, for the last week have been doing nothing but playing Fire Emblem.
That's right.
And it has been loosened someone in the last couple days because I finished one of the routes, which ended up being actually the shortest one by about 4 chapters. Oh. Which, if you know anything about the Fire Emblem game that just came out, is a long time, because it's very Persona in that you sort of go through the months and you have a bunch of free time you can spend doing whatever.
Right.
And then you have a battle at the end of the month. So it's very Persona, speaking of. But yeah, all in all, I spent 60 hours from start to finish on that route alone. And I did that over the course of 4 days? 4 days. 60 hours in like 4 days. Which is literally just get up, play Fire Emblem, go to sleep. Get up, play Fire Emblem, go to sleep. And it's like, this was like 15 hours of playing and like 9 hours of sleeping. So I got lost.
Job.
I got lost
like
a little
double
bit.
Shift.
Yeah, I was running a double shift. I was honestly halfway through. I was like, I wish I got paid for doing this, because Jesus Christ. Anyway, that game is really good, I think. That game is really good. I think that I'm not gonna say a lot about it because we are only a week into the game, and I'm not just gonna go out and spoil a bunch of stuff that happens a week after the game has been released. Because I personally am somebody who I don't care as much about spoilers as many other people. I don't actively seek them out, mind you, but I don't really mind if someone tells me about something that happens. But I know that some people are, and I know that some people care about that. So I'm not gonna go and spoil that, because it's only been out for a week.
I want to play the game, but I'm also like, I'm usually on team no spoiler, but at the same time, because it's a Fire Emblem game, and usually the plot is pretty light. At least from my experience. I mean, it's like, okay, well, I don't mind as much as like if someone spoiled, Persona or something to me.
I will say that the plot is a lot heavier this time and a lot deeper. Because it's because so the thing is, because this is a console Fire Emblem game, the console Fire Emblem games have a tendency to be much deeper, much longer, and much heavier than the mobile ones. So the last games that were like this, the last games on console, were Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn, which both all in all just sort of were really, really good. And I hold those games dearly in my heart, and they're some of my favorite Fire Emblem games, and that's like the case for most people who have ever played like the most Fire Emblem games that have been released officially in the West. So the thing about it is that the stories of Awakening and Fates, and Awakening more than Fates because Awakening actually had a decent story, kind of pale in comparison to how grand the narratives of the Tellius games are, because that's the name of the continent. It's like the world building and the lore and everything and the plot are much better in the console games because they are generally developed for longer and they're meant to take longer to play. Like Radiant Dawn, to finish it, I think it took me 112 hours.
Whoa.
Yeah, and that was a
RPG.
That was a game for the Wii.
Oh.
And Three Houses could easily take someone 200 hours to complete every route if you just sort of played at the pace that I did. And like I didn't play at a super fast pace, mind you. Like I think I could probably get the rest of them done like around the 180 hour mark if I went about the same speed. Because now I know the game better, and it takes less time the more you know the game.
Right.
But like I did everything that I could. I like spent all my off time talking to students and like fishing or whatever. There's a fishing mini game. So what I'll say about it without spoiling anything is that the plot is a lot better this time. The characters are a lot better this time, and the fact that they are they're like very well fleshed out. And fleshed out within their own supports. And I like that they've revamped the support system a little bit so that characters don't have the same number of supports with each other. So in Awakening, everybody had A, B, C, and maybe an S if they were going to get married. But in Fire Emblem Three Houses, you only have B and C for some characters, and you only have A, B, C for some characters. But then you have ABC, and then there's 2 check marks above the A, which indicates that their A support is 2 parts, and so you have to level them up separately. So it's like another level. So characters have potentially anywhere from 2 to 4 supports, which is really cool and really good for making sure that characters actually feel like they're interacting with each other in unique ways. Because it's not just, oh, I hate you. Oh,
it's not
we're making up. Now we're best friends.
Right. They don't have to feel like, okay, we can only do this in 3 to 4 interactions. That's it.
The progression feels a lot more natural, and everything about it is just very well put together. The battle system is very interesting because they don't have the classic weapon triangle, but they do have it in certain respects. Like they have what's it called? They just have skills basically that take the place of those, where if you wanted to play the weapon triangle, you would level a character up in sword skill, and then they would get axe breaker, and that would mean when they're wielding a sword, they get bonuses against axe users. But yeah, overall, it's very, very fun, very engaging. It's been a long time since I've been so deeply engrossed in any game to the level that I was with Fire Emblem. Like, I was very deeply engaged. I did not want to do anything else except for play this game. Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah. I also was surprised at how much I actually liked every character that I had in my roster, because some of them I was like kind of annoyed with to start, like they were kind of obnoxious, but they really grew on me very fast, and I was surprised at how well that did. I think the conceit of teaching them as your students works really well, until you get to the part where you have to romance them, which gets a little uncomfortable. But, and I will spoil this, there is a time skip, which everybody knows because they showed the trailers, and you can only marry people after the time skip, and you basically disappear for like 5 years, so it's like a little bit better. Like, it's the best it could be for being teacher-student relationships. It's not like you're romancing students while you're a teacher, but they don't stop calling you professor, which is like kind of weird and a little uncomfortable. But it's mostly, and I will say this, it's mostly because it's a common shorthand for the fact that they can't account for what your name is in the voice acting.
Oh, right. So it's like
a little
leader
bit
in Persona.
It's a little bit, yeah, it's a little bit more understandable. Like, you know how they call you like Joker. And
yeah.
In Granbelm, they just call you Dancho, which means captain.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that I wish could have been a little better. I feel like I wonder if it's the same in the Japanese version, because I know in Japanese you kind of have a shortcut around that. It's a little bit more intimate, so it can come off as a little bit uncomfortable or uncomfortably close. But you can say anata, and that will mean you. But you can't really do that in English without becoming like kind of weird. It's like, hey, you. Right? It's like, that actually happened a lot in Persona, where it's like, hey, you. It's like, yeah, that's my name. Hey, you. Yes, overall, I am very, very satisfied with the Fire Emblem game. There are certain things about it that I'm interested in plot-wise that don't get resolved, but that might be because I chose the shortest route. And it's a very specific route, which is probably why you don't get as many answers. So,
okay.
Overall, very, very, very happy with it. I really enjoyed my time with it. I want to play it
eventually.
I would highly recommend picking it up if you have any interest in it whatsoever. I love. It's a little bit complicated, I think, for newcomers, because it's the classic sort of system, but then they add a lot of features. Like, there's a lot of extra features, but I would say as an introduction, it's actually not that bad.
Okay.
Because it will get you kind of into the meat of things, and you'll start to pick things up. And they have some very forgiving mechanics. Like, they have the Divine Pulse, which lets you turn back time a couple turns, like piece by piece, which is really nice.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Which is honestly like a godsend, because sometimes you don't want to start the whole map over again. Sometimes you've been there for 3 hours and you just like misplaced one unit by accident. You attacked with the wrong weapon. Anyway, it's nice. It's nice. I still play I still play on hard classic just because it I don't know, is what kind of feels right.
Yeah.
Hard classic is the permadeath mode. Right.
That mode terrifies me.
It's okay. The Divine Pulse makes it much less terrifying.
That's good.
Anyway, that's what I've been up to. I've probably been up to other stuff, but they're completely irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. Like, compared to how good Fire Emblem was, nothing else matters in my life right now. Like, I don't know. There's a Granbelm summer event going on. It's pretty cute. They have free rolls going on, and so I logged in and I got my one of my favorite characters, the swimsuit version, which is really nice. But none of that. Only Fire Emblem. Okay. Well, we've been talking for an adequate amount of time, I would say. So why don't we talk about anime?
Anime summer 2019.
Summer. Summertime.
So first, to kick off the summer, we've got Dr. Stone. Which you actually tried to get me to read the manga of a while back, and then I never got around to it. Yeah,
well, I kind of figured it is just sort of like that sometimes. How did you feel about the anime, having watched a couple episodes?
Having watched it, it's entertaining for sure. It's definitely very, very shonen, which is fine. I'm fine with that. I the biology major in me was quite excited to see all of the science that I feel like they're gonna lay down.
I was gonna say I bet you're gonna really enjoy this because it's science.
Because it's science. I will be keeping an eye out on as to like how accurate the science is, because it's a shonen, you know. Sometimes they grossly over exaggerate things, like the boy that popped out the rocks, the statue, and he just kind of like killed everything in his path. Like, that's a lot. If they science it like that, then that might be a lot. But.
There's a very Danganronpa aspect to this show.
Yes, you're right. Yes,
it's very Danganronpa. I feel like, and this is without fact checking, obviously, that it's usually pretty good. Okay. Because they have like a whole like roadmap that shows you how to make each component, and they also have a disclaimer at the start that just says you should not try any of this.
Good old Japan.
Good old Japan. Which, I mean, like, to be fair, like, sometimes they're making like gunpowder and stuff, so like,
that's legit. You don't want kids making that at home.
Do that. Not that you're ever gonna stop anybody, because God knows everybody has a copy of the Anarchist's like cookbook, and everybody's tried to make napalm at least once in their life. But yeah, I think it's very entertaining. I really like Dr. Stone.
Yeah.
And I keep up with the manga. I will say that the anime does a lot of favors for the female characters in this show.
How does it?
Because the mangaka like just seems not to be able to draw women at all. They look really wonky. Like, all the dudes, it kind of works for the dudes because they're like stylized in ways that make them look like kind of neat and intense or like goofy, and all the women just kind of look like blow up sex dolls.
Oh no.
A little bit. I think they look a lot better in the anime.
Okay. That's good.
They get better over time, but it's like, it's clear that this author has never seen a woman in his life. No. Like, ever. Yeah, Dr. Stone is Dr. Stone is very entertaining. It's like shonen, but they don't really fight that often. It's mostly just doing science, which is cool.
I like that.
Yeah, so it's like, it's really refreshing because it's all of the tropes and stakes of shonen with all of the battle being replaced by science. It's kind of like how Food Wars was like that for food.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which is really nice.
I'll be looking forward to it then.
Sure. Next, we'll talk about Fire Force, which is another on the sort of shonen list for the season.
Yes.
And it is by the mangaka who did Soul Eater, Atsushi Okubo. Yeah. And it's like Blue Exorcist a lot.
Like, so much.
Like a lot.
Like, really a whole lot.
It's kind of just like Blue Exorcist, except the fire is red and not blue.
Basically, but yeah, I was a little surprised because, like, at least for me, like, you can't help but compare it to Soul Eater, right? Because it's by the same person. Mm-hmm. And Soul Eater had such a unique flavor to it that when this came out,
it is a little different.
It's super different, and it's also like, it feels like it. You would think that the work that came first would have less of its own voice than the ones that come after it, right? Mm-hmm. Because like the author has more experience, but this one is the one that feels like it has less of its own voice because it feels so highly derivative.
Yeah,
and I'm a little disappointed by that, but at the same time, I've only watched one episode, so I can't judge too much.
I mean, I was gonna say, having read the manga for this at least a little bit, I will say that it does become more interesting. Okay. The later that you get. Like, I only originally kept up with it because it was by the same mangaka, but then it became actually like sort of engaging. I think that you don't get a lot of chance for the world building to shine in the first episode. You get glimpses of it here and there in terms of how the city looks, but a lot of the more interesting stuff comes later. But it does feel like it's very derivative of Blue Exorcist, and whether it is or not, who knows. Although, interestingly enough, what's interesting is that the new Trigger movie coming out, Promare, is
Yes.
apparently highly derivative of Fire Force,
What?
like rumored to be.
Huh.
So-
What I've seen of Promare so far is so vastly different from most of the things that I've seen in anime.
It's because the setup of it is that they're firefighters. And
in Promare?
in Promare, they're firefighters, and they have to stop people from spontaneously combusting into fire.
Oh, okay. I guess the premise is quite similar.
The premise is quite similar, so we'll see. I think that visually it looks pretty good, honestly. The fire effects are really nice, and I think that
Yes, the animation is very good.
I think that like alone should carry it as far as it needs to. There are some things that happen in the plot that I think are very interesting. Like the world building, I will say, is very interesting. It actually does feel a lot like Soul Eater, where you kind of have this this city that's like it has a very specific flavor to it that you don't necessarily get in the first episode. You can kind of see it from the architecture, but when you learn
okay.
more about it, it becomes more interesting.
Sure.
So-
Okay, maybe I just need to see more of it to really get.
Yeah, I don't.
what
I think
it's-
this is a slow burner.
Yeah, I guess for Soul Eater, it was like so in your face that you understood what it was about immediately.
Yeah.
And then for this, it's like, okay, you got to kind of sink in.
I think Soul Eater is a super quick acquisition, and Fire Force might take a little bit longer.
Okay. I'm
yeah.
I'm for that.
I think visually it should be carried by its visuals alone, at least for a little bit. Talk to me about Vinland Saga.
I love Vinland Saga.
Me too.
Oh my gosh. So it's really, I guess like a lot of my friends at least praise the manga as being like the best manga they've ever read, but I never actually read it. So it's
Yeah,
really,
I've heard that a lot too, actually.
Right. It's really cool getting to see it animated because now I'm like, oh, I'm getting a taste of what they mean because it is actually really compelling. And yeah, so for anyone who doesn't know, Vinland Saga is about Leif Erikson. The end.
The end. So, Vinland Saga is about 11th century Nords
Yeah.
living in Iceland. And
Yeah.
they're like, oh, it's getting too cold. I guess we gotta go to Vinland, which is, if you didn't know, actually the old like Nordic word for America is what they called it.
Yeah.
So then now you have Leif Erikson, and he's like a real character in the show, for real. And also like Harald, the first king of Norway, is also a guy that exists because it's like a historical drama about a family, and
Yes.
it's kind of really cool.
It's really, really cool. It's from what I can tell, pretty well researched. I'm not an expert on that time period or this culture, but it looks legit, and it's really, really awesome to just kind of like learn about the culture in general and about this time period because it's really like action packed and very dramatic, but it's also like super well illustrated. And,
Yeah.
The backgrounds are really pretty too. Oh my goodness.
I was a big fan of the art style because it's like
Yeah.
very. I don't know how to say this. It feels like a historical drama in the
Yeah.
art style itself. It feels very appropriate for the story it's telling.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this one for me is the standout of the season. Like I'm really, really looking forward to watching more of it. Seeing what it's about, the saga that
Interesting.
we're on.
Yeah, we haven't gone that far. We've only gotten an episode into it, but
Yes.
it is shaping up to be pretty fucking good.
Right.
So I'm really looking forward to how it how it pans out. Because like, I mean, people wouldn't say it's like the best manga of all time without reason, would they?
Right?
People wouldn't do that. They wouldn't just go on the internet and lie.
Yeah, why would they ever lie or exaggerate to us?
Yeah, but I'm sure that's gonna be just great. The animation is just incredible.
Yes.
There were some really cool panning, like 360 panning shots. It felt a lot like you've seen Thor Ragnarok, right?
Yeah.
Well, the lighting technique that they use, where they like spin a light around and it like casts the shadows all around this like panoramic image. right? That's a very that's like a proprietary lighting system that they came up with. And it feels kind of like that, except, you know, you're the light and you're spinning around the whole scene.
You're the light spinning around.
Yeah, it's actually really cool. There's obviously a lot of work put into it. There is some CG, but it actually looks pretty damn good.
It actually looks legit.
Like, it actually looks legitimately good. Like, they actually did some work with it instead of using it to cut costs. It's like they were just using it for a reason and not because they just couldn't animate it.
Yes, exactly.
Because they can obviously animate.
Right, and I love that, like even like the mobs or whatever, right, of people, the armies, like they were CG, but they weren't like that ugly CG that you might find in, like, I don't know, other anime. But they were like, it felt like an anime that was built from the ground up. We're going to incorporate CG with 2D illustration and make it look as seamless as we can.
So this is by Wit Studio, who also does Attack on Titan and Mahou Tsukai no Yome, which actually makes a lot of sense considering the kinds of shots that you get in both of those. Like, they seem to have really learned a lot from those shows in bringing them to Vinland Saga, because it's like you get these really great sort of sweeping angles that I think definitely come from Attack on Titan. And I'm sure the manga paneling as well. But, like, the studio is obviously quite practiced at this point. And then you get, like, the beautiful backgrounds.
Yes.
So, yeah, honestly, like, this is an incredibly, incredibly well-made anime. It looks gorgeous.
Yeah.
Like, they open on, like, an amazing, like, battle scene, and there's dudes jumping across boats and killing people with their swords. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, man.
And they're
really,
Vikings.
Really good. And freaking Vikings.
I mean, how could you not like Vikings? Honestly,
how could you not get hyped for Vikings?
Listen, if you like historical Viking drama, like, this is exactly up your alley. I have exactly one friend who this like manga anime was made for, because he's Danish.
Oh.
Or his family is Danish.
Right.
So it's his heritage. You know? Anyway, I just love that Leif Erikson is in this, and I
love that he's an actual character in this. He's not the main character, but he's there.
I like it because Leif Erikson is like grandpa.
Yeah, he's kind of a joke character, but he's kind of an amazing one.
He reminds me of my grandpa, actually.
Oh.
He's just like, let me tell you about this cool story about America.
It's like, Grandpa, what are you talking about now?
Yeah, I definitely agree that this is at least one of the big standouts of this season. Like, there's no reason you shouldn't be watching this unless you're not. At least
check out one episode, unless you really don't like Vikings that much.
Yeah, maybe you hate Vikings. Maybe you don't want to watch somebody get stabbed, but, you know, that's valid. It does come with the territory.
It does. It's not super gory or anything, but it does have, like, you know, people are getting killed.
It's not like gratuitously gory, but there are people that die because it's like a historical drama.
Yeah, they're at war or whatever. So
it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I'd say.
Very cool.
All right, next is do you like your mom? Her normal attack is 2 attacks at full power, or I think the Crunchyroll transliteration of it is, do you love your mom and her 2-hit multi-target attacks or something?
Yes. So it has several translations of the name. This is
an isekai about a guy who gets isekai'd, but also his mom is there and OP.
Yes. And it's exactly what you would expect from an anime involving a mother in which she is very cutesy and also just a MILF. So,
yes, 100% a MILF.
This is the MILF anime.
This is the MILF isekai anime.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, at the very least, in the first episode that we watched, it doesn't seem like we're gonna go into sort of uncomfortable territory. It looks like the humor of the show comes mainly from the fact that they are just like mom is embarrassing and I just want to be a cool hero, which I'm gonna be honest, I kind of like that. And okay, I feel like at this point we should just start a website that just is like is there incest in this anime.com? Or like so I extended it from my original idea, which was are you being usagi dropped.com? which
is even more niche within that.
It's a little bit more niche, but like I would be willing to extend it to is this animeincest.com?
Yes, I would frequent that website because there's so many anime that I got bamboozled with, like suddenly incest, like Sword Art, and I was just like, all right, I'm out, bye. I can't do this.
See, there would be like I hate that normal family dynamics in anime is like something to be pointed out and applauded. Like I kind of despise that that's the case. Why is it normal for the whole like dynamic to just be like, well, I mean, don't you wanna and like, no, not even like a little bit. That idea is revolting to me. Like, you're killing me. Like, I'm actually dying.
It's like we're all dying slowly, but now I'm dying a little bit faster now.
Yeah, I'm dying much faster because of this, and it's exactly your fault. How dare you do this to me? So, yeah, as far as I can tell from the first episode, it looks like there's not going to be like an uncomfortable dynamic, even though like
hope not.
I really hope not, even though it kind of it's like set up in a perfect way for an anime to be, because like the mom is like young and youthful and like she's trying her best, and she's like, you know, she doesn't look like a mom necessarily, she just looks like like an older sister character, and it's like, oh yeah, Dad, don't like where this is going.
But she's got boobles for days, and
she's got huge
coddles
bobbles.
Her son, and she gets fan service to Hekaruni. It's all there.
I mean, the hope at any rate is that the fan service is for us and not for him, right?
Yeah, I'm hoping it's just for like whoever's watching the anime.
Which I'm sure that's part of the appeal of it.
Sure, yeah. Because it's all like all the other cast is just like cute girls, so.
Right. I just hope it's like, I just want to live my fantasy life and have my like cool fantasy relationship, and mom's like, no, honey, talk to your mother first, please. I just so desperately wish and hope that the family dynamic stays a family dynamic.
Yeah.
Right? And you know, that's all I hope for, because otherwise, like, you know, it's animated pretty decently. There's nothing too intense that has happened, but it looks pretty clean. The art style is cute.
Yeah, the art style isn't bad.
And I don't know. I like the setup for the isekai, but I also don't like how close it is to being like very uncomfortable.
It's so straddling that line, and I'm not.
It's like when I watch it, I'm like vaguely reassured by the events that are happening in the anime, but at the same time, I can't help but feeling incredibly anxious. I'm just like, but what if they do? I'm gonna have to like shut it off immediately if I do. Like, I will have to go and self-destruct.
I know.
Anyway, that's that anime, the Milf Isekai.
The anxious anime.
I'm sure this is for somebody. Like, somebody will enjoy this. If you like,
oh yeah,
I don't know, watching an adolescent boy be embarrassed by his mom, which, by the way, does sound hilarious when I say it like that.
Right.
Why don't I come back to you at the end of the season, and then we'll pass a verdict on it then.
Okay.
Although, speaking of being Usagi dropped, the next show we're going to talk about is If It's For My Daughter, I'd Even Defeat a Demon Lord. So I've read a decent amount of the manga for this some time ago when I was on my isekai binge.
Yeah.
And it's like fairly cute, sort of. Mm-hmm. Of course, I'm always just endlessly anxious that they're going to Usagi drop me.
It only takes one series.
It only takes one. It only takes one. For the record, for those of you that don't know, basically Usagi Drop is like this like heartwarming story of a dad raising a child.
Yeah, and then, it was legit one of my favorite series until.
And then at the end.
Until the end.
And then at the end, it's just really uncomfortable.
So uncomfortable.
Because like it's like that thing that you always hope will not happen in like one of those like shows or whatever, where like a man is like, I'm a single dad.
Yeah. Like, hey, I'm gonna adopt this child because she was orphaned and no one else wants to take her in. I'll raise her. And it's really heartwarming because she slowly opens up and like they develop like a nice father-daughter dynamic, and you know, takes her to school and all that. And like it's really a nice supportive relationship. And then dude also has like a romantic tension with like another, like a single mom, and she has her son, and the son and daughter play together, like that kind of thing too. And then I don't know why, because that relationship had so much potential, they decided towards the end, when adopted daughter grows up, like I think a 10 years time skip or something, she's a high school girl, and you know how Japan likes to do with high school girls. And you have a male protagonist. Yeah, so
I hate it so much. So anyway,
basically, yeah, it ends terribly.
We hope that won't happen in any show, but it happens in more shows than I like even want to know about. Honestly,
yeah,
it's no, it's so bad. It's so bad. It's anyway. Returning to this show, it's pretty heartwarming as far as I've read. Honestly,
but you haven't read the end, Soup.
I haven't read the end, so I can never make a judgment about it. And my honest verdict is don't watch it because the anime itself is bad.
It's not a great anime. It's not terrible, but it's not like high quality or anything. It's actually, for me, it was pretty boring to watch. So
I think the manga is better than the anime. I don't think the anime does a very good job of adapting it.
Oh, okay.
Because the anime is like really boring, and the animation is like not amazing. And even though it's not amazing, they like do as much as they can to not animate parts of it.
Yeah, it's true.
Like,
they recycle a lot of animation, even within just the first episode, and that's a pretty big warning flag.
Yeah, that's a good sign that you should maybe just not involve yourself in it at all. So, I don't know, give that one a pass. It's not an isekai, by the way. It takes place in a fantasy world, but it's not an isekai.
Yeah. At first I thought it was an isekai, but then I was like, oh wait, no, this guy lives in this world. Never mind. No,
yeah. That's like, sometimes you forget because there's so many isekai, and they have the conceit of like the JRPG world, like the JRPG fantasy world. That you forget that shows like Danmachi are not actually isekais. They just exist in those spaces.
Right.
Anyway, this one I would just give a pass. Like, hard pass. I don't think anyone should watch this.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe read the manga if you have no fear.
Right.
Like, if you have no fear. Honestly, you know what? Here's my recommendation. Don't think about this show. Watch Sweetness and Lightning.
Yeah, because Sweetness and Lightning, we know for sure, does not go the Usagi drop way. It will stay off the website. There's like
a scale from Sweetness and Lightning to Usagi drop in terms
they're on
of
opposite spectrums.
How uncomfortable the dynamic is between the father and the daughter. Anyway, yeah, that's my recommendation. Don't watch this.
It wasn't super great. I mean, it is about a cute girl and, you know, a doting adopted dad who's like way too young to be a dad, but oh well.
Yeah, he's 18. You know what I was doing at 18? Nothing. I wasn't doing anything.
But they're in fantasy medieval land, so they're much old. Sure.
Yeah, man. He's an adult, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. Anyway. Yeah, it wasn't either of our favorites, but if you like that kind of stuff, then it knows what kind of genre it is. So
yeah, that's true. That's true. It's not pretending to be anything else.
Yep. So next we have, yeah.
It might be pretending to be a heartwarming father-daughter story, and then it becomes Usagi drop.
Stop.
But as far as we can tell, it knows what it is. Yeah. I hope. We
all pray. All right, so next we have Astra Lost in Space, which was so long until we realized.
We didn't realize that the first episode is double length, so it's 47 minutes and not 24. Yeah. And so multiple times we wondered why it was so long. Yeah. And let me tell you, even with a double length episode, it went on for way too long. It was so boring.
It was not interesting.
It was so boring.
Like, the premise itself is fine, right? It's like kids are in high school and they're going to space camp, essentially. However, something goes awry with their space camp and they end up getting warped like thousands of light years away from where they were supposed to be. And so now they have to somehow adventure their way back to home. And so, yeah, this ensemble cast of different unique characters. But none of them are super interesting, and the story's really boring.
They're really not. Like, I had high hopes for this show because the premise sounded so interesting.
Right.
But the execution of it was not awesome.
It was not awesome. I also liked the premise a lot, and then it wasn't any good. And plus, their uniforms look a lot like Boku no Hero. And
that's true. The girl in the beginning just looks like Ochako. like her, but only her uniform because her hair is pink.
Yeah.
The thing is, I think that it has some pacing issues. Like, it's really slow for no reason.
The pacing is horrible. Yeah.
And also, okay, they introduce one of the main characters, right? And they introduce his like tragic backstory where like his teacher slipped off a cliff and died, and then they show that same flashback like 2 to 4 other times in the same episode.
Yeah, in this double feature episode, they showed that one flashback several times, even though we haven't seen like hardly any flashbacks from any of the other characters, right?
I don't know why they decided it would be a good idea to do that. Like, we were watching the episode. I promise we were.
Yeah.
You don't have to show it to us again.
Right. We were paying attention. Like, we got it the first time, and you would think that was enough. Like I understand they wanted to like hammer home how big of a character moment this was for him. But still, it was like, did you think that we had amnesia? That we would just spontaneously forget that his teacher died to save the students or whatever? Or you know, was basically like, you have to go on, survive without me, and then fell off the cliff.
It was a big mess. It was a big mess, and it wasn't really that funny, but they tried to make a couple jokes. The humor was like, it was from like 2007. I feel like
pretty old humor.
It was pretty dated, and like it wasn't interesting even for humor from that era.
Right. It's not like the kind of timeless humor, which is like, you know, like it doesn't matter when it's from kind of thing. Like, yeah, right. Like Osumatsu-san has a lot of dated humor, but some of it is still really funny because it's like, okay, this kind of stuff is pretty ageless. Versus this was just like, the humor doesn't date that far back, but it still doesn't feel very funny.
It just feels so old. Yeah, I don't know. I think that it has the possibility to get better as time goes on, but I'm not willing to put in the effort to like get there.
Yeah, exactly.
It to me feels like the hurdle of the first episode was too steep for me to want to enjoy it. Because I wanted to enjoy it. You know, I felt like it was gonna be, you know, kind of cool.
Right.
Having been like the like going across space in a cool spaceship adventure. Yeah. Because it sounded a lot like, honestly, Tenchi Muyo in certain aspects. And I like Tenchi Muyo. And like, it just wasn't, is the thing.
I like Tenchi Muyo a lot too. And there is a certain campiness to Tenchi Muyo that like, because the characters are so strong, you don't really care what they're doing because their interactions are just so fun to watch. This one is like, I mean, it's a new cast, so of course it's going to take you a while to like get attached to them or whatever. But it just didn't feel interesting. I don't know.
The real problem is that they start too far back. The problem is that they start with the scene where like the girl is tumbling through space, like, you know, Sandra Bullock in Gravity.
Yeah.
And then they go and they spend the next 30 minutes of the show doing the boarding process.
Yeah.
I wish I was joking when I was saying this.
You're right.
But they literally spend like 25 to 30 minutes in the airport, basically.
Yes.
I signed up for a space adventure. I did not sign up for the airport adventure. If I wanted to go on an airport adventure, I would go to the airport and I would sit in line and be, I don't know, have my privacy invaded by the TSA. I wouldn't watch an anime about it.
Yeah, it does feel like there was a lot of content that could have just been easily cut out or like redone in a way that was quicker.
There was so little that happened in space.
Right.
For a show that is about space.
Right. And a lot of it didn't make sense. Like the whole rope thing. Like it just took me out of it so badly. Like I get why they wanted to end it where they did, right? Where it's just like, okay, now we've established where these kids started, how they got into the situation, and how they need to band together to get across space. Like they established everything that they needed to.
Right.
But they did it in so much time that it just felt wasted.
It felt like the world's longest prologue. Like if you're gonna have a double header, have half of it devoted to space time.
Right, exactly.
I wish they had just gotten into the first planet, because they have to basically, this conceit is their spaceship only has so much fuel that it can travel between, and they only have so much food, so they have to stop between inhabitable planets to get food and water and stuff, because it can only hold like 12 days worth of water or whatever. Right. So like, why didn't we just start on the planet, you know?
Right, like if they really, really, really wanted to show all that prologue-y stuff, contain it within the first half of the thing of the double feature.
I bet you could have done it in 10 minutes tops.
You could exactly like, and it's not like these like if you want to have like an introduction to each of these characters, you can do it fast because each of these characters is designed in a way where you can understand their personality pretty quickly, like on the get go, like Mega Knight guy, 200 IQ,
200 IQ, 200 IQ, Psyche Kusuo,
like and there's the little girl, she has a puppet, cool, great. It like so much of it is just like you could understand it just from looking at these characters, right? That's solid character design, even if it's not like, you know. It felt
like the world's blandest Danganronpa. Like, because Danganronpa has that same thing where all the characters are designed so strongly that you can immediately visually tell what they're supposed to be.
Right.
And what their personality is going to be like.
Right.
And then like,
so you don't have to waste a whole lot of time like explaining every facet of their personality.
But it felt like the pacing of like the first sort of opening bit to a Danganronpa game where you're all meeting everybody and learning the stakes. But that was the episode, and it was
the entire episode,
and it was not one episode; it was two.
Yes,
and like there's no excuse for how boring it was to watch the first episode. There's just none.
Yeah.
I am upset because I wanted to like this.
Yeah. I love a space adventure, you know?
I don't think we get enough space adventures anymore.
Yeah.
We used to have more of them. That was like the glory of the 90s and early 2000s. We've got tons of space adventures.
That was the hype of space.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Tenchi Muyo has sort of unconsciously seeped. Maybe I should rewatch Tenchi Muyo.
Maybe that's where you need your space adventure from.
Yeah.
Because this is not going to be Tenchi Muyo.
No. It's that is evident. That it's not going to be Tenchi Muyo. Yeah. Boy, I don't know. On the other hand, this next show we watched, I enjoyed very much, which is Oh Maidens in Your Savage Season. I
was honestly not expecting this to be as enjoyable as it was.
I'm surprised you weren't, because like to me it looks like a show that is going to be good. You know?
Well, to me, it not so much in like the premise or kind of the premise, but more so like the way that it started, right? With the girls just like reading from like their literature books. I was like, okay, this seems more like Soup's alley than my alley. Like,
I mean, yeah.
and then it starts like developing, and then you get to see like, okay, this is a little more than what I thought, and then it becomes like actually super funny.
I mean, I was gonna say,
like,
it goes
what?
completely off the rails.
Yeah.
It goes so off the rails so fast.
Yeah. And so like if you watch the first few minutes, you're like, this is not my jam. Keep watching.
Keep watching. Yeah. Interesting. So apparently the writer for this is named Mari Okada, and she is one of the most prolific writers in the anime industry, but she actually wrote the manga for this one, which is interesting. She looks like she wrote she was the series composition director for Anohana.
Oh.
Cool. Yeah. Oh wow. There actually a lot of these. She did Hisone to Masotan. She did Nagi no Asakura or Asukara. Is that what it was called? Nagi no Asukara. Oh. The Fujiko Mine loop on the third one. Interesting. Yeah, this is a lot of she did Toradora. Okay. Anyway, Oh Maidens in Your Savage Season is basically if you took a place further than the universe and then you kind of jumbled it up with Jellyfish Princess. That's my completely 100% accurate description of this.
Yeah,
of this show.
very. Extremely
It's basically
accurate.
It is about a literature club of girls who basically are just like kind of coming to grips with the fact that sex is a thing that exists. And
right. It starts off like very stereotypical like literature club kind of anime, and then it just goes off the rails when they mention sex.
Right. So it's kind of about them grappling with the idea of sex, which I think is really cool because there's not a lot of shows that are really willing to do that in like an actual sort of introspective way. One that I'm thinking of specifically is Gyaruko or Galco. That show is actually surprisingly good. Despite what it may look like, because it actually is basically what high school girls probably talk about, like realistically. Like they're talking about, actual concerns involving breasts and not just like size. They're like, well, like what if I can't feed my child or whatever? It's a lot. Anyway, but they talk about actual like honest to God stuff.
That's what all high school girls talk about.
Yeah. They talk about I've been to high school. I'm sure that everybody talks about inverted nipples.
Oh my god.
I've been to a high school, but they talk about like their periods and stuff. So,
yeah, that's again what all high school girls talk.
I don't doubt that that's what high school girls talk about though. Like considering what like, quote unquote like boys talk is like. It's just kind of like, anyway, I promise it's better than I'm making it out to be. It's legitimately more charming than the words that are coming out of my mouth. I can't describe it perfectly. But Oh Maidens in Your Savage Season is just a wonderful, hilarious coming of age story. Coming of age. Like it is an honest sort of approach to just how weird and awkward sex is, especially as an adolescent. And as
funny.
As a person,
the show is actually really funny.
Yeah. And like they're characters that are, in a literature club, and they probably their only exposure to sex is through literature, and that leads to some hilarious circumstances.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that there was a very good chance that this would have been good, because of the subject matter and the way that it approaches it. I was recommending the manga a while ago.
Because it seems to be handling it well.
I think it does.
Yeah.
Because I think it handles it in a way where it's actually thinking about what this stuff means and what it's like as a teenager, rather than just being like, high school girls and sex, isn't that funny?
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it obviously has the potential to be like a little exploitative, but it's kind of clear from the first episode that it isn't that way. You can just tell from the framing, and the art style is super cute as well.
Yeah, the art style's nice. Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's well animated as well, actually, now that I think about it.
It is.
The animation is
pretty well
beautiful.
animated. Yeah.
I definitely recommend watching that if you are interested in, coming of age stories. Also, if you really liked A Place Further Than the Universe, I think this is exactly up your alley.
Yeah, I think it has a similar line of humor, but also just like the emotional beats feel.
Yeah, they're very similar.
Yes.
I think it's the mark of like kind of a mature show to be written in a way that feels like that.
Right.
Because I think it could obviously be made the butt of the joke, but it's so funny in such a sincere way, and it's not like begrieving any of the characters for the fact that they don't really know what sex is like. It's just like, yeah, dude, sex is like weird and uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And you kind of get it. Like everybody remembers a time. I was gonna say a time before the internet, but that's not necessarily true. And I guess not even necessarily relevant. But like, I feel everybody remembers being an awkward adolescent.
Right.
So honestly,
Learning about sex for the first time.
I highly recommend it. And like, I do think that there's an aspect of it that's kind of like blooming to you, where it's like these girls kind of feel like they've been left behind a little bit because everyone else is like, yes, we've definitely had sex before because we're teenagers.
Right.
Like,
which
that's
is
just how it is.
a very, very high school thing.
Yeah, it's a very high school feeling, to feel like your peers are growing beyond you, and to feel like you're not getting the same experiences. Like you're kind of missing out necessarily. But it also acknowledges that that's like not necessarily how you should view it, and also that sex is really weird and uncomfortable sometimes.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend this. If you like Jellyfish Princess as well, it has very, very like the cast reminds me a lot of Jellyfish Princess. Yeah, so that's one of my standouts from the season, honestly. If I had to pick one show to watch, it would be that one. Because you chose Vinland Saga, I would also recommend Vinland Saga.
Yeah.
All right, next
we have To the Abandoned Sacred Beasts.
Okay, so this is about the American Civil War. Except the North is losing, and so they make monster people. But then those monster people, the war is over, and then the monster people have to... I don't actually know what the plot of this show is, because it started out in a way where it was like, yes, we're just people too. Like, if we lose control of ourselves, I want you to put me out of my misery so that I don't hurt people or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then like, and then it kind of transitions to like, well, all monster people have gone completely off the rails, and so this guy's hunting them all. And I'm like, really? You like flip the whole core premise of the show around. It feels like it feels like you've gone completely the opposite direction than I thought you would. Anyway, so Wolverine is the main character. And I say that because his sideburns are like Wolverine sideburns, and also he turns into a wolf. That's his magic his magic beast power. He turns into a fucking Wolverine. And then he gets shot by his best friend, who I think is a vampire.
Yeah. He also has a white-haired form.
Yep, that's what happens because he almost dies because he got hit by bullets that are supernaturally draining, because his to-be wife that he never confessed his love to died because she made the beasts in the first place. And then she made the bullets to kill the beasts, and then she got shot by the bullet by the vampire guy who was like, now I will own the whole world.
Yeah, he kind of like aimed it at her booble, which was weird, and then just decided he was going to shoot her like that. And we were like, okay.
I'm pretty sure he's Dio now.
I guess so.
Like I like he's just an evil vampire now, I guess. I don't know what the point of this show is. I'm not sure because we've only watched one episode, and he kills. I don't know. It's confusing to me.
It is.
Because it feels like it's confused about what it wants to be. Because
Yeah.
I don't know.
It feels like they started with this idea of like, oh, it would be cool to have this wolf dude and this lolly girl with a shotgun like be a duo, right? And then they built the story kind of around that roughly. But we don't really see lolly girl until like the very, very end of the episode. Like she kind of like walks into the scene all dramatically, and then that was the end of the episode.
Honestly, we only kind of watched it because we saw like a girl in a dress with a gun, and we were like, hey, that's kind of cool. And then she didn't show up in the first episode, so we were disappointed.
Right. And then we also saw like in the trailer there was this pan of all the beasts, and some of them looked real jank, and so we were like, okay, we gotta watch this.
That was part of the reason we watched it, because like the monster designs were really funky, and that was kind of cool. But I guess they're all evil now, I think.
I don't know.
So I guess
I
he's
honestly
hunting
don't know
them.
what's happening.
I'm not sure what this is about, really. Other than like, I think it's a revenge story, probably. But that's as far as I could tell.
Right, because he's got to avenge his dead lady.
Yeah, gotta avenge his dead lady.
As most male adult protagonists must do.
Right,
they have a dead lady they gotta avenge.
Yep, F for that lady.
F for the lady.
Yeah, I don't know. This show is maybe if you wanted to watch like a mindless action show, you could watch this. It kind of gives me the same vibes as that other show that we never picked up, that we never finished, the one about the werewolf guy.
Oh, right. Sirius the Jaeger or something?
Yeah, Sirius the Jaeger. But it almost feels like that one is more interesting and more visually interesting.
I feel like that one's more interesting.
So maybe you should just watch that one instead, actually, now that I think about it. It seems like the same premise.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, let's talk about Copcraft. Copcraft is a buddy cop drama set in fantasy America, basically. It's like fantasy New York, except New York is like in the middle of the ocean where the rift appeared, where all the fantasy people live, and so now people emigrate to Earth. And I think we got kind of a feel for it in the first episode. It's basically like you have your hardened, grizzled veteran detective cop who just lost his partner and is assigned a new one, and she's like a plucky upstart from the fantasy world, and she wants to do things her way, and he's just like, no, we have things to do. I hate this. I wish I had my old partner back. And then that's kind of the conceit of it, and it is kind of interesting, I guess. I wouldn't say it's bad.
Right. It has a pretty interesting like staff behind it too, right? Like the creator of it is Gato Shoji, who's the creator for Full Metal Panic.
That makes a lot of sense. Why suddenly I'm
and the character designs are by Murata Range, who did Last Exile. So
this is making a lot more sense now. I was just like, this is oddly keyed into what America is sort of like a little bit.
A little bit.
And then you said Full Metal Panic, I was like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. So I don't know what to kind of expect from it, like because we haven't seen a whole lot of the dynamic between the two main characters. So I think the story will be super hinged on how that plays out.
I think it could go either way.
It could go either way, right? Based on the first episode, it feels like it could go either way. I mean, the first episode is mostly like you get introduced to the two main characters and you get introduced to like what America is like in this kind of like fantasy fusion world. And America is exactly as most countries would portray it, which is full of gangsters and random violence.
Full of gangsters and violence and all kinds of stuff. Drug trafficking? Hell yeah. Human trafficking? Hell
trafficking.
Yeah. Fairy trafficking.
Yeah.
Damn Scapey. Immigration. Yeah, they do. I don't really know what to make of it either. I feel like it could definitely be good or bad. The first episode was interesting, but it didn't like blow me away.
Right.
And it didn't but it wasn't bad either, I would say. Like it definitely has the potential to be a good show.
Yes.
If you're into the buddy cop thing.
I'm just not sure if it will be.
Yeah, I just don't know if I feel like pursuing it still. Is all it is.
Exactly.
I think that the setup of it is definitely a little bit more creative than a lot of sort of, I don't know, standard fantasy shows. Like, I kind of like that it's basically just yes, it's basically the same as, you know, any other fictional depiction of immigrant towns, which is, I mean, it does kind of feel like it was written by someone who was it feels like it was written by someone who has the potential to be either very racist or like a centrist in America right now, rather than somebody from Japan. That's what it feels like to me. Like it feels like it was made by a centrist in America, where they're like, oh yeah, illegal immigrants and crime, they do bring that here. But you shouldn't discriminate against all of them. That's racist. So it's like, I'm not really sure what to make of that. Because it's clear that this city has so much crime and there's 2 million people living in it.
Yeah. I like at least the initial premise of like it's a fairy authority figure having to partner up with this human dude authority figure, and he's very stereotypical, right? Like his partner gets killed, and so then he gets reassigned to this new partner, and she's like, you know, from a fantasy world, he's a little bit racist towards her, which you know is a thing. So I was intrigued by that, but then I don't know about the execution.
I don't know about it either. It almost feels to me like, because obviously I don't know how the story progresses, but it feels like it would have been better served to have been a movie. I feel like I would have rather watched a movie about this. Because
that would be a cool movie, yeah.
I do think that the framing of the shots and the shot composition is quite engaging.
Right.
Like, it does feel a lot like somebody who's clearly seen, like, buddy cop or, like, sort of cop dramas.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just that it doesn't capture me in the way that I thought it would.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
So yeah, maybe that's up your alley. Maybe. I don't know. I don't.
I don't know.
I'm gonna give that a solid maybe.
Yeah, same. All right. So next we have Are You Lost? The Japanese name is Sonan desu ka? Why did they translate it as that?
I feel like just to get the idea of it across, because it feels like the thing about like Sonan desu ka as the title, right, is like you kind of get it in the first episode where they're like Sonan desu ka, which doesn't really translate well to English in any reasonable capacity. Like you can't just say like, oh, is that so? That wouldn't make any sense. But I feel like this title reads a lot better. It feels like yeah, I mean, obviously, like, any work of translation is a personal interpretation, like, that has been put forward. And I feel like I can understand where this one comes from. Because I don't know if I would have translated it any differently, to be honest.
Right. Like, if you translated it literally, it wouldn't hold any kind of value in English versus Are You Lost? It alludes to, like, it's a survival anime.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that the title is very sort of specifically ingrained in Japan. Like, I don't think it works outside of Japanese.
Right. No, that's fair.
Because it's kind of like an exclamation.
Yeah.
So
okay, so the anime itself is about these high school girls that are the survivors of a plane crash, and they're stranded on a little island, and they have to survive. And one of the girls has had like a wild past or something, raised by her father in like the wilderness or whatever to survive. I don't know.
Yeah, her dad was like a mercenary or something.
Yeah. And so she's the one who is like trying to teach them survival techniques in a very straight-laced fashion, and these other girls are like way out of their element. And so it's kind of a gross show, but also maybe informative, but mostly meant to be funny, I guess.
I think it's mostly meant to be funny. Like, they're eating bugs and they're drinking
and raw
fish blood.
fish. And then this one girl almost like urinates on another one because she's like, I'm thirsty. And she's like, here you go. And that was alarming.
Yes. It's very clearly meant to be a little bit tongue-in-cheek and a little bit fan servicey.
Yeah.
It's like kind of unapologetically a little horny.
Yeah.
But other than that, it kind of just feels like either a more intense camping anime, like the camping anime. What was that called?
Oh, this is another spectrum. The Eurocamp anime?
It feels like a more intense Eurocamp, or alternatively, it feels like a less intense Dr. Stone.
Yes, I would say that versus a more like Eurocamp feels like like a different genre entirely.
No, I think they exist on the same spectrum, because if you sent these kids to Alaska, they'd like have to survive. They would go absolutely feral, man.
Leave my Eurocamp girls out of this.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, a less intense Dr. Stone.
I mean, I feel like if you want like a lighthearted comedy, like this is kind of it. Like, I think it's gonna be lighthearted comedy with some potential like feel good moments, and that's kind of you know all I expect from it, and probably all that I would want from it. So
yeah, it's a little bit gross, right? Because they are eating like things. But if you're not super squeamish or anything, then
if you're not turned off by
fine.
the idea of like watching high school girls in an anime eat bugs,
right? Exactly,
and
or
then complain about
fish
eating
blood
bugs
or whatever.
Because honestly, I'm not gonna lie, it's actually really funny, and the comedic timing of those moments is really good.
Yeah, it does have good comedic timing. Yeah,
because like she just kind of catches a fish and then puts it in her jacket or her shirt, and then like
I was honestly not expecting what she was doing.
And then she just squeezes it into her mouth, and you're just like, and like they do this in complete silence too. They just watch her do this, and it's like, that moment is really funny.
I was like, oh, okay.
So yeah, I think the way that they highlight those moments is actually really good.
Yeah. All right. So next we have Granbelm.
Yep. So Granbelm is okay, it's basically like magic used to exist, but then it didn't because people used it to kill each other, and a bunch of wizards sealed it away into a giant castle. And now the descendants of magicians are fighting to, I guess, I'm gonna go ahead and guess, get their wishes granted. With the infinite magical power.
They are competing for this title, right? And it's apparently a monthly competition. And yeah, I think there's like 7 of them that have to battle it out. Because there were 7 magicians who had sealed away the magic. So it feels like a cross with fate, and due to the nature of the character designs, Madoka Magica.
Yeah, it does feel like Madoka. It feels like Madoka if Madoka was done by the character designer of ReZero. Yes. And the general aesthetic is very Madoka too. Like it kind of has like this vague mystical feeling. It's kind of like in an isolated city overlooking the water, and then there's like a giant like castle thing floating in the sky, and looks all like vaguely Kingdom Heartsy, but not. I mean, I do kind of get what you mean, because like in the first episode, because they spend so much of it in the like alternate world, there's like almost no other people in the entire episode.
Right, exactly.
So yeah, it does feel very Madoka in that respect. It feels very Madoka in the respect that the effects that they use are almost kind of Madoka-esque, like the illusion effects that they put over the city are a little reminiscent of like the witch worlds.
Right, exactly. They're not as like, it's not as unique looking as the witch worlds, but the general like feeling of it, I guess.
Yeah.
And of course the main girl is a pink-haired Ugu sweet child, clueless, and then the other protagonist is long, dark-haired, violet-themed, knows how to do fight stuff real good. Homer-esque style type of a character. So it feels like, it just feels so derivative, right? That it feels like a derivative of so many different things mashed into one anime. And that's what puts me off of this whole show.
See,
yeah.
I'm like vaguely interested in the premise. And we mostly started watching it because we saw that there were mechs in the trailer.
Right.
And yet,
oh my god, and yet somehow from the trailer
we couldn't
we
couldn't tell from the trailer.
Yes.
The mechs are like chibi mechs basically. They're so squat.
They are
and
so small. Like even with like the Chibi Gundam series, right? Even those guys didn't feel as squatty bulky as these mechs, right? Because like Chibi Gundam, they have like little details and little like I don't know, the proportion wise, they just feel better, I guess, as opposed to these mechs, which are just squished.
It's all head and arm.
Yes.
Like and this is really interesting. This is really weird because like I don't hate it as much as you do, but I do hate the mechs.
I hate it. It's that it's so distracting.
No. It's not that. This isn't about the mechs. The show in general, I think I liked generally more than you did.
Okay.
But I hate the mechs and their design so much that I think in the end, overall, I dislike it as much as you do. And that is, frankly speaking, a little impressive. And
it is.
I will say that there's it's not like 100% like, because of, it's not 100% like my sort of distaste for the mech designs, but because of the focus of the show, like most of the time you see the mechs and they're fighting.
Yes.
And like the mechs are hand animated and they look good when they move, except for the fact that they're so squat and not aesthetically pleasing to look at. Like,
right.
They look like oh god, they look like Metabots or something, but like even more squat. They look like mechs designed for a children's show.
Right. And I mean, granted, it probably is aimed at a younger audience than what we are, but it's still like I understand like if the design is simpler and smaller, that it would be easier to hand animate, right? If you're going to go that route. And the battles do look really good. The problem is that if your mech design is so distracting, it's not going to matter how awesome the battle looks if everyone's just sitting there wondering why the mechs look like that.
It's like, listen, it's like, the thing is, it is like as if you had a martial arts fight, right?
Right.
Like if you choreographed a martial arts fight, but both of them, like both the people fighting were 11 years old. Right? It doesn't matter how good the choreography is. You'll be distracted by the fact that these children are fighting each other and they like don't look like they should be.
Right, but at the same time, it's like if these children are fighting and they're doing so well, then it's like, oh man, that's impressive considering they're 11, right? Like this is intense. In this show, it feels like
there's a huge aesthetic disconnect between the mechs and every other part of the show.
Exactly. It doesn't. That's why I feel like it's such a mishmash of derivatives, because stuff does not feel like it belongs with each other, right? Like you have this atmosphere, this mysterious atmosphere that's very Madoka-esque, mysterious kind of like, vibe. And then you give me chibi squat mechs and it's like, I can't take it seriously anymore, right? Like, I don't know whether you're trying to cater to a really young audience, in which case the atmosphere should be maybe a little more playful, a little more lighthearted, or something that would indicate that it's meant to be a child show. Or the mech design needs to be more sophisticated so that I can take these things more seriously. And it feels like there's just such a huge disconnect between all these different elements it's trying to smash into one anime.
I feel like it almost like the mechs are the only part that don't work, which is hilarious because they're the focus of the show, and it feels like there's so many other things they could have done with the mechs. Like it
exactly.
I don't even care if they were the same size as they are now, if they were just better proportionally. Like if they were just designed to be like sleeker, because they move in ways that just is not good to look at when they're so squat.
It's not. And the fact that the character designs themselves, right? The people inside the mechs are like designed so elegantly that it's such a huge contrast to what the mechs look like. Because generally in a mech show, you're right. You would feel like traditionally the mech kind of like symbolizes the person inside it, right? It's kind of like an expression of themselves, and that reflects on the design. But the only thing that reflects in the design to me is how they're colored, right? Like,
I was gonna say it's just color scheme,
right? The Violet Girl has like a dark mech, and I was just like, man, I would love to see her in like a Dark Knight-esque kind of more like.
Yeah, and then you know, Madoka has a Gundam.
Madoka has like a giant white flower-looking mech, and it looks terrible.
It uses Shining Finger, and that's literally what happens in the show.
It uses Shining Finger, and it obliterates not only the opponent but the mountain behind it, kind of like Dragon Ball Z style. She literally
explodes and just is gone.
Oh my god. Yeah, she is disintegrated.
I don't think she's dead, but like she got wasted.
Yeah, her soul bits floated back up to the castle in the sky, but it oh man.
There's a lot going on in this show, and I don't think it works together that well. And I think that 90% of the reason it doesn't work is because of the mechs.
If it was purposeful, like we intentionally made the mechs like this to develop into something later, I would respect that.
Yes.
But
it doesn't seem that way.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it will go that way, and because if it doesn't, then that's like, why? Well,
I feel like if it was gonna be that way, what should have happened was that some of the mechs were like that, like evolved forms of mechs to begin with, and then this girl's mech is like squat and tiny.
Right. Yes.
I feel like that would have been better, but that's not the way it went. Versus
all of the mechs being squat and tiny.
I really don't like it. It's super distracting, and frankly, it kind of ruins the whole show for me.
It ruins it. I love the idea of like a female ensemble cast for a Gundam-esque anime or like some kind of mech anime, right? Like, because you don't get that very often at all.
Honestly, just watch Nanoha. At this point, just fucking watch Nanoha.
Right.
Or what's that other show? It starts with like an F. It's like something Lin. I'll look it up.
Okay.
But yeah, bad.
Bad.
I mean,
it's not our flavor.
Okay, not bad, but not good.
Yeah, it wasn't.
And it's like almost 100% because of it's just 100% because of that fucking.
You gotta sell if you're gonna make a mech anime. You gotta sell the mech.
Yeah, that I 100% agree. Your mech design has to be on point.
Yeah,
and it wasn't on point to the point where it was distracting.
So distracting, which is such a shame because the other stuff in the anime is fine. Like, yeah, derivative, whatever, but it's fine. Like, it's passable. And freaking, when your characters, like your people characters, look far better than your mechs, and it's a mech anime, there's a problem. There's a disconnect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe check it out if you want to see what we're talking about, and maybe we're being too hard on it. Or maybe you'll agree with us. Who knows?
I was going to say, it's possible that we're being too hard on it, but I kind of doubt it. It almost, I feel like anyone with eyes will see. I don't. I just.
That's all I had to say about it, really.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe just watch a good mecha anime. Maybe just watch like Gunbuster or something. Oh, okay. The one I was thinking of, by the way, was Rin no Lagrange.
Okay.
which I think was a primarily female casted anime, a mech anime.
Okay, I haven't watched it.
Also, I'm pretty sure that there's like Idolmaster anime that's like set in mech.
Really?
I think so. I don't know. Anyway,
I don't know.
they like to do that with idol shows where they just put them in other genres for some reason, and I don't know. It actually sounds kind of interesting, to be honest. But let's talk about The Wasteful Days of a High School Girl. It's a comedy show where all of the humor is incredibly deadpan.
Yes.
And I'm not gonna lie, some of it's actually pretty funny.
Some of it made me laugh. I was just like, that was funny.
I think one of my favorite jokes is in the first episode, there is a joke where a girl's name is Nino Mae.
Oh my god.
Her like the character for her name is the character for one, and Nino Mae is just Japanese, like literally Japanese for before two. So she's like, yeah, it's the character for one, but it's read before two.
It's so terrible.
And it was a really bad joke, but I thought it was really funny.
Oh, it was so funny because it was so bad. It was just like, I can't believe you did this.
I don't think this is like a must watch or anything, but I do like the brand of humor. It's incredibly deadpan. A lot of it is very hit or miss.
Yes.
And a lot of it is very dry.
Yeah.
But there are some parts of it that are actually legitimately funny. So
right. Yeah.
You'll
you'll probably get a laugh or two out of it.
You'll know if that's the kind of show you want to watch.
Yes, exactly.
You will 100% know. All right, tell me about Given.
I watched all of the first episode. And I was hoping it would be like, I guess kind of like based on my vague impressions of the series, it would be kind of like Bloom Into You kind of quality, where it's like, I mean, these boys are probably going to fall in love. It would be interesting to see what happens. But it's such a typical BL that I
bummer
got bored watching it.
Yeah, you were hoping it would be classmates, and it just wasn't.
I mean, they are in the same school and whatnot. I don't know, like the delivery for me was just super slow, and it wasn't slow in terms of like, we're taking our time with the emotional beats like Bloom Into You. It was just slow. And I mean, the premise of it is like there's this guy who is like, he falls. This guy who is a guitarist, he has some kind of trauma in his past that negatively influences his views on music and being in a band, but he's in a band, and he comes across this other dude sleeping on the stairs in school, and he's cradling a guitar, and the dude on the stairs wakes up, and then the guitarist guy is commenting like about the broken string on his guitar, and then the guy who was sleeping was like, oh, this can be fixed? Really? Can you fix it? I was like, you own a guitar. How did you not know that the string could be fixed? I was about to lose everything in my brain. And I guess he's supposed to be like the airy-headed, kind of like sleepy type or whatever, like very kind of like cute in that way, maybe, but I was about to have an aneurysm just from that moment. And then it kind of continues like that, but airy-headed guy, he wants guitarist guy to teach him how to play guitar. Guy's like, no, I don't want to because trauma. And then by the end of the episode, he lets the guy hang out at their band sessions, their band recitals and stuff, and I guess kind of sort of warms up to the idea of teaching him guitar. I don't want to watch any more of it.
Okay, all right. That was my question. It seems like you were not interested in watching more of it.
No, and the music is nice. I like that, and I mean the instruments are usually in CG, but that's understandable because instruments. But yeah, it's just not. if you like BL in general, you'll probably like it if you read a lot of that kind of content. I read some BL, but usually it's kind of like kind of quirky, kind of more serious, like 19 Days I really like by Old Xian, because it's just funny. As these boys slowly fall in love.
isn't that the one by the author who does what's that one called? The lesbian one.
The lesbian one.
Hold on, let me just make sure I'm thinking of the right one.
Yeah, you think of the right one.
19 Days. Yes, I was thinking of someone else.
Okay. Yeah, this is
Yeah, I've definitely seen screen caps of this. It has a very... This is very much a Chinese-like webtoon.
Yes, it's very Chinese, but it's funny. I like it.
I always conflate this artist with the one who does Their Story. Because the art styles just look so similar.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Interesting. Yeah.
If I were
Man,
to
why
watch
is China so good at making gay stories?
Freaking with the freaking Grandmaster cultivation whatnots, and then this, and with freaking Old Xian, like,
honestly,
I don't know, man, they're on it.
Chinese stories are underrated.
Yeah. But yeah, the music's nice. It has a really well animated dog. I like the dog. If I were to watch it, it would be for the music and the dog, but otherwise I'm so uninterested in everything else, and it's a shame.
Bummer.
But, yeah. So anyway, I'm being way too hard on it because I'm pretty picky about what kind of romancy-esque shows I watch. So that's the perspective that I'm coming from with it. I was really excited for it because I was like, oh, I haven't watched a nice BL in a while. I want to see boys falling in love. And then this was like, I don't want to see these boys fall in love. Yeah, that's all I have to say about it.
Sick.
Dope.
Special shout out to Ensemble Stars, because we didn't watch it, but I'm gonna make everybody watch it.
So we can all become idol fangirls?
No, because it's really fucking weird.
Okay.
I still intend on making everybody take this quiz that is it from Ensemble Stars or classical Russian literature?
Oh, yeah.
So yes. I'm going to gather everybody and make everybody do that, and we're going to put that up on Patreon.
Yeah, and we gotta watch the Dumbbell Girl anime.
Yes, we also have to watch Dumbbell, which I just need to make you watch an episode of, but it seems... I've read the manga, it's pretty funny.
Okay.
And I'm sure you'll enjoy watching the there's so many muscles, right? There's so many muscles, and they just muscle all over the muscle.
Okay.
Okay. All right. What are you up to this week? Where can we find you?
This week I will be working on commissions. I have another convention in 2 weeks. Well, less than now. And I only got 2 more conventions till I'm done for the year. So that's really exciting. Nice. After August, I'll be donesies. And I'll be moving soon to wherever place that we get. And that'll be
heck yeah.
what I'm up to. Yeah, I guess that's it. Oh, also, I've been paranoid because my neighbor in the apartment across from mine got broken into. So that's what I'll be living through for the next month until I move.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, it was intense.
Oh my.
I know. Can't live here anymore.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's utterly horrific.
Don't break into other people's homes, kids.
Yeah, don't.
It's not a good time.
Don't do that. Excuse me?
Excuse
me? Hello, police? Okay.
Yeah, and that's it, I think.
Nice. All right. I am. Wait, did you say where you could find you, or did I miss that?
Whoa, where can you find me? I'm on Twitter and Tumblr and Twitch at SwanDrawn. You can find me on Instagram at swan.drawn. Yeah, I'll be working on commission stuff, so if you want to come hang out, please do so.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, you can
now
find
it's
me.
Your turn.
Oh, it is. You can find me all places at Literal Soup. If I'm on a place, it's there.
There.
I am gonna be playing more Fire Emblem and I don't know, other stuff, I guess. I don't know what other stuff. Oh, okay. I completely forgot to do this during the intro, but over the last 2 weeks, I have also binged all of The Good Place and Russian Doll, and they were both very good.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't know what either of those.
They're just TV shows. Well, actually, one is a Netflix original.
Okay.
Both highly worth watching. Anyway.
Okay.
I will probably just be playing Fire Emblem, honestly, like Fire Emblem, Overwatch, whatever. I did my second interview for the job that I might get on Tuesday, so hoping to hear back from that.
Yes,
and then I would be an employed boy and not not a NEET.
Yeah, and then we can get you on a schedule, so I don't have to wrangle you.
Yeah, I know. I'm so sorry. It's just, to be fair, my life is already so structured by the things that I have obligated to do every week anyway.
And yet,
I'm the worst, and school has not helped. But it has. Now that it's gone, I'm realizing that most of my time was already just taken up by things that I promised people to do, like playing D&D and watching anime and doing the podcast, stuff like that. Anyway. I don't mind it. I like it, but I don't know, man. I wish I had more time in the week, that's all.
I mean, of course.
Yeah. Only the week was longer. But yeah, I'll be doing some shuffling around for the next couple days, and then I will be teaching people how to play Xseed, which is that card game I was obsessed with.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that's I don't know. I'm just having summertime right now before the crushing reality of adult life sets in. Although it kind of is already setting in a little bit, but I'm just trying to push it to the back of my mind.
But if you do get a job, you can earn all the muns to buy all the Fire Emblems that you want.
I know. I could buy like 2 Fire Emblems. That's more than one. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm gonna hope that I get a job because I really need one.
You'll do it. Don't worry.
I'm sure. Be sure to follow our Twitter at AbsoluteCast on Twitter, and then our Patreon at Cast, and then shout out to Gwen, who again is our one person who we do the shout out for. Gwen,
you're killing us.
You're killing us.
You're too kind.
With kindness. We're suffocating in your kindness. It's choking. Oh God! Oh, someone! Heimlich! As always, our opening is by Scotty Network, and our ending is by Takuma Okada. If you're wondering how I'm not dead, it's because I'm a ghost. I've risen from the dead to tell you the end of this podcast. All right, let's get into it. Wadara, Majima, Kensetsu.
That was beautiful. Thank you.
You just wait till this year is over. We're gonna find a better one next year. One that preferably we don't have to sing.
It's like a moody poetry reading, you know?
Majima, Kensetsu. Can we just have the next one just be like the intro to Country Roads? Like, I know how to sing that song.
As long as you're not playing Wonderwall on your guitar.
You know what? I've completely forgotten how to, but that's a good idea.
No, don't learn it again.
Wondrous Wall.
No.
Anyway. Goodbye.
Bye.
らまた明日ね。